by what happened today in court. But the Accra High Court earlier today adjourned the bail application pending the appeal of former NPP Ashanti Regional Chair Bernard Wontumi to October 15, 2026. And keep this date in mind, October 15, 2026. Lawyers for Wontumi were expected to move the bail application on Wednesday, that's earlier today, but the court clerk informed the parties that the trial judge is not sitting this week due to her unavailability. In fact, the other information we got from officers of the courts, some lawyers, is that she had already indicated she is indisposed, wasn't well. Now, lawyer Samuel Atachia and his client were also absent from court. However, the NPP Director of Legal Affairs, that's Gary Nimakon, was in court today to represent Chairman Wontumi. Now, as we do know, Chairman Wontumi was given a 20-year jail term by the Accra High Court after he was convicted of illegal mining-related offenses. He has since filed an appeal against the High Court judgment and is seeking a bail pending the determination of his appeal. So that's what happened earlier today, and let's have a conversation with a member of Chairman Wontumi's team. In fact, he's a spokesperson for the Bernard campaign team, and he also is a lecturer, Dr. Pagre Boache-Dankwa. Good evening, Dr. Boache-Dankwa. Hello. Hello, Doc. Good evening. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, Alfred. Good evening, Alfred.
Perfect. I can hear you clearly. Now,
thank you.
I just recounted what happened in court earlier today. The information, although has been reported, with some different references by some outlets, what we do know, and based on the information from the officers of the court, is that the judge sitting on this case had already informed the parties that she wasn't well, and that's why your chair or your preferred national chairman, that's Chairman Wontumi, did not come to court today together with his lawyers.
That is very accurate, Alfred. We received notice yesterday that the trial judge would not be able to come to court today because she's indisposed, which is why Chairman Wontumi was not brought from his own prison to criminal court for High Court, and which is why his lawyers as well were not present in court.
But what this effectively does is that it does not only keep Chairman Wontumi, the man you are speaking for, as national chairman hopeful, in custody a bit longer, but it also impacts on that bid of him wanting to be national chairman of the NPP, is it not? Because October 15 is way beyond that date of October 3 that the party has communicated that the national executive elections will take place. And so, October 3 is going to still be in prison.
It gives us very clear indication that the party's positioning about Chairman Wontumi's imprisonment is political imprisonment.
How is that?
Which is why we are very concerned about this, because the learned trial judge being indisposed does not mean that any other judge could not have sat on the case for the bail pending the appeal. But as it is, we as a team and the business community who have raised the resources to be able to pick up the form for Chairman Wontumi will still go on Friday. I have indications that on Friday the forms will be picked and subsequent completed and filed thereafter to be submitted back to the National Elections Committee of the party.
You are going to pick the forms for Chairman Wontumi to fill to contest as national chairman. He is in prison. I mean, he's not going to be out of prison on October 3. And so
That is accurate. That is accurate. He's not going to be out on October 3, but voting is going to be done. And if the delegates so wish that Kyea Wontumi becomes the next national chairman of the New Patriotic Party, they will exercise their democratic rights and franchise.
are you not just going to waste your resources in this process?
Well, Alfred, there is no waste in this. This is an
Hello?
individual person's right which he owns. Hello, Alfred, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Good. This is an individual person's right which he owns, which he must be given the liberty to be able to do that. This is people that believe in his leadership and in his vision to lead the party in the rebuilding efforts. This is someone who has won election for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a former regional chairman for Ashanti region, which is the stronghold of the party, a 3-term chairman. 19 members of cabinet came from his region, and so people believe in his leadership and the grassroots support him. And so I don't think that.
I see, but assuming, just for the benefit of analysis, assuming that he wins while in prison, and I'm going to get to another hurdle you would have to deal with, but assuming he wins, how is he going to run the party from prison?
Well, assuming Kyea Wontumi wins and he's in prison, there are national executives, which is not just Kyea Wontumi. There's a first vice, there's a second vice, there's a third vice. Then we come to the general secretary of the party, the national organizer, the youth organizer, and on and on and on. And so definitely matters would be decided upon by the rest of the team in addition to him. And I'm not too sure that in Salome is just about 60 minutes from here. Whenever they have an opportunity to visit, when there's visiting hours, they would consult him.
But you see, your preferred person to lead the party as chairman is currently serving a jail term, 20 years. Your party's constitution, specifically the clause 5, that's on disqualification of a member, and I've referenced this before in our earlier conversations. It is active and also very impactful in this scenario that your candidate Kyea Wontumi finds himself in. If you read disqualification of a member, that's chapter 5, 1 I, it says, a member shall be disqualified from holding any office or contesting any election in the party if such a member A is declared bankrupt under any law in Ghana, B has been convicted and or sentenced by a court of competent jurisdiction in respect of any of offenses involving 1, high crime, high treason, or an offense involving the security of the state, dishonesty, fraud, or moral turpitude. 2, any offense punishable by death or by a sentence of not less than 10 years. And this is where your candidate falls in there. A sentence of not less than 10 years. He is serving 20 years. So effectively, your own party's constitution actually disqualifies Kyea Wontumi because he's still serving the jail term. He's not out yet. October 3, he's still going to be in prison. And Dr. Pagwe Brachinakwa, you're still convinced that you want to go pick the forms for him?
You know, I am glad that you have read the party's constitution. And I'm also glad that the party took a position that Kyea Wontumi is a political prisoner. Those were the very earlier words of the party on the 20th of July 2025 at about 4 p.m. when the General Secretary addressed the media. He is intimated that Kyea Wontumi is a political prisoner, and the grounds for which we have appealed also states so. And so we are of the opinion that we would go through the process, pick the form, file the form. If we meet any hurdle, we would know that uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. We would have done our bit as a people who supports Kyea Wontumi in this process.
But the appeal has not been heard. It has not been granted. So how does that nullify the provisions of your constitution with reference to what I just read?
let me give you a scenario, Alfred. Imagine that the appeal will be read after the election and the chairman will be acquitted and discharged, which means that all of the judgment that came against him has been squashed. Is that correct?
Technically, yes. Legally.
Great. Legally, good. But the election would have been done already.
Absolutely. So
suppose
it comes back to the same point.
Hold on, I'm coming. Suppose then that Chairman Wontumi wins this election, and the National Party says that based on his ongoing legal case, we hold on to his swearing in until all the legal tussles are done. And if indeed he's discharged and acquitted and he's cleared off, then the party will swear him in. Could that also be another scenario we can look at?
But that's the point. Even before we talk about he contesting this election while in prison, you still have to deal with this hurdle, because you talk about the appeal which you have filed, but that has not been heard. So that does not nullify the provisions of the constitution of the NPP that a member will be and shall be disqualified from holding any office, including the chairman, national chairman of the party, if the person is indeed convicted of any crime as highlighted: high crime, high treason, serving a jail sentence, or that's any offense punishable by death or by a sentence of not less than 10 years. All of this are active. Your candidate falls flat on the sword of these provisions pending the hearing of the appeal. So before it's even heard to even have to be considered for the election, the party will have to deal with this. Have you, the members of his team, asked the party's position on this matter, whether Chairman Wontumi will be allowed to take part in the election before you even go and spend your money to buy the forms for him?
What we are convinced about is that chairman has a right to be able to pick a form, and nothing constitutionally forbids him from doing that. What we are also convinced about is that chairman has a right to be able to file a form, and nothing constitutionally bars him from that. It is the vetting committee that will determine the next step of action. And so as we speak now, I'm aware that the campaign team will pick up a form. I'm aware that the campaign team will file.
I see. Now, but let me bring in here Justice Abdullahi as well, who has also been following this quite closely. And in fact, Dr. Bachinangwa, Justice Abdullahi is a private legal practitioner. Justice Abdullahi, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Indeed, good evening, Alfred.
Great.
And good evening to Algrave. He's a brother, so you don't need to introduce me to him.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. But then again, I referenced the NPP's constitution, but there's also the supreme law of the land, that is the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, which also has some provisions in there that would have some bearing in here, and I want to engage you on that as well, beyond what the NPP's constitution says. Article 55(8) of the 1992 Constitution has something in there which will be of good reference for us. A political party shall not have as a founding member a leader or a member of its executive a person who is not qualified to be elected as a member of parliament or to hold any other public office. So we reference what the qualifications to be a member of parliament is. And clearly we do know someone who obviously doesn't have this criminal records, is not the one who has been convicted, served jail term, a person of a sound mind. That's what we have in here. A person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament if he has been convicted, number one. Two, for high crime under this constitution, or high treason or for an offense involving the security of the state, fraud, dishonesty, or moral turpitude. So what we see here is that the chapter 5 of the NPP constitution was actually, or is the article 94 that has been lifted by the party into their constitution. So listening to Palgrave, do you still think that there's some hope in there for Chairman Wontumi?
Thank you, Alfred. I appreciate that. I think if you listen to Palgrave, his position is based on belief, not based on the provisions in the constitution or even the party's constitution. And so for a person talking from that angle, I think it is difficult to disagree with him, because that's a position premised on belief, and then he's hoping that it will work out well. We can only wish him and all those praying for Kyea Wontumi's success, the very best of it. But if you look at the letter of the party's constitution and its premise being the 1992 constitution, which literally, forbids these things. But even if the party was to surrender the qualification criteria in the party's constitution in favor of Kyea Wontumi, there will still be that second hurdle of the 1992 constitution that has to be also surmounted. And so you put in place mechanisms that make it almost impossible for Kyea Wontumi to become the leader. If he was contesting an election in, let's say, 2030, to be organized in 2030 or thereafter, the hopes would have been higher, considering that there's pending appeal, which could go either way. And so chances are that if he goes in his favor, then the way will be paved for him to contest the election. But as things stands now, I think it's too bleak and it's too dark for Kyea Wontumi to be successfully contest. Not to think of all these other hurdles. And I think that maybe just for the uninitiated, they may probably have to refer to the case of Kwame Mpenin. This involved the same MPP as a political party. I think this was somewhere in the year 1996 when Kwame Mpenin, the economist, attempted to contest for the flag bearership of the MPP, the same MPP, flag bearership. And at the time, he was one of the leading candidates, of course, with John Kufuor, J.H. Mensah, and of course, Nana Akufo-Addo, all contesting for that election. And of course, this issue came up that Mpenin had been involved in offenses involving the security of the nation. And on the basis of that, a suit was filed at the Supreme Court and successfully disqualifying him. Not on the basis of the MPP's political party's constitution, but on the basis of the national constitution. On the basis of that, he was disqualified. And this is why Mpenin has not been so active in party political party matters. So the same thing will come up dealing with Kyea Wontumi going forward if he strongly intends to contest for this. I can understand the difficulty my brother faces and how to convince his colleagues in contesting for, taking forms, contesting for the elections, and then possibly seeing to the victory